Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, and yes, playing radio host on the weekends and having some fun with it. Practicing attorneys here in the great state of North Carolina. They have offices that are very conveniently located for you. They're in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, Morehead City. They've got an office on the moon. I kid, but no, they are growing. So if you have any legal situation that you are facing and you've got questions, you can always contact Whitaker and Hamer, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact info, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can always email your questions to the show, and we'll answer them on a future program. Questions at theoutlawlawyer.com. Josh, take it away.
All right, Joseph. So
that moon office would be a pretty sweet idea, man. I just want to.
What a view!
Yeah, that'd be pretty. We need to work on that.
It would get no business though, right? The moon
That's all right.
office would have no
no
clients, I don't think.
I'll still remote into the show.
All right, Carolina Panthers. It hasn't been pretty, Joseph. You've been watching.
It's been bad, man. Are you even a Can we call you a Panthers fan, Josh? I don't know. I know your lovely wife is from Buffalo, so I know you have allegiance to the Bills. But I'm
going to tell you, man. This is.
I think you need to clarify that.
When I was growing up, we didn't have the Panthers, so I was raised pre
Redskins. Are you Redskins?
I'm not a Redskins fan. Or I'm not a Commander.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Commanders.
The Commanders.
I'm not a Commanders fan.
I think I think the show just got fined for saying the wrong word. Sorry.
I grew up. I was a Howie Long guy. Right. When I was growing up, I was on the defensive line. I was a Howie Long guy.
Good call. Did you wear 75?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was a Tim Allen guy. Yeah, Tecmo Bowl. I was a big Bo Jackson guy. I was a Raiders guy as a kid. Just like some kids picked the Cowboys, some kids picked the 49ers. And in North Carolina, you just picked, right? Because we didn't have a team. You were legally
That's
allowed.
Fair. I will allow that for you.
Yeah, we got
and
the
for
Panthers.
People of a certain age.
We got the Panthers. I was all in, man. Biaka Patuka, Wesley Walls. Oh, man. I was all in on those teams. Steve Berline. You remember Steve Berline?
Yep.
Do you?
I've played golf with Steve Berline. Yes.
I remember Steve Berline.
Former Cowboy.
Steve Berline has my favorite sports quote of all time. Again, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but Steve Berline has my favorite quote of all time. It was, we had a playoff game, was at Green Bay, and he rushed for 3 yards and got us like one of our last touchdowns that we needed. I think we won that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But after the game, they were talking to him, and I can't remember what the question was that prompted this response, but he said, look, I'm the quarterback of this team, and if you need 3 yards, I'm going to get you 3 yards. And he was like, if you need 5 yards, I'm going to get you 3 yards. And that was my favorite. But anyway, big Panthers fan. Love the Panthers. It's been hard to watch, but I do also root for the Bills, which is a nice segue. But I still say
that's not always been a good thing.
That's a nice fallback for you, Josh. Nice.
But right now, it's a good fallback.
Yeah, it is. But it's. I've tried to, man. I tried to watch that last game. I just couldn't, man. And all the 49ers fans that were there, obviously the Panthers folks were selling their tickets, and boy, you feel sorry for those guys, man.
I can comment as someone who's a little younger than you, Josh, and I played football growing up, from literally the youngest age possible, but was never a big NFL fan until like I got into like late middle school, early high school. And that was right when the Panthers started that really strong run where they ended up going to the Super Bowl, tragically losing to Tom Brady and the Patriots. But so that was right around the time that my NFL fandom really started. So I've always been just Panthers, like no secondary allegiance, strictly the Panthers. And had some really good times, man, had some really bad times. And lately, it's just been depressing, man. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, the games, they're not even entertaining. There's no element of, it's just sad. It just makes you sad. And it makes me sad that I can even allow a sport to affect me in that way. That, like, I'll try to sit there and be like, think about it as this isn't that important, right? Like, I shouldn't let this bother me at all. But in reality, those are just words, and it still ends up bothering me. But it's just been a real sad run, man.
It has, and for a while now, I think the last time I really got excited was that game Cam Newton came back, and it was like the one game did they win that game or did they lose that game?
Yeah, they won that game.
They won that game.
He played well. They won that game, and then it was like off a cliff, just completely, just.
Yeah, we got the new owner. That was exciting, and he's not been the greatest, at least if you just look at what's reported in the news. And then of course Matt.
Well, if you look at the record of the team, I mean, that's what, if you want to be completely objective about it, that's what you look at. And yeah, definitely not the greatest.
But Matt Rhule, he got himself a good contract. These coaching contracts, they're for a lot of money, and people like to look at them. But if you ever read one, they're not very exciting, right? These contracts are actually pretty simple contracts when you break them down. They're for a lot of money, but you think a contract for $40 million or whatever, 60 million or whatever,
62 million back in 2020 for 7 years. And
yeah, that contract is not, I can't remember how many pages it is, but you think it would be like 800 pages, right? For something but it's not. It's a very short contract. And, it had a lot of guaranteed money. And I think in retrospect, he hasn't worked out and people look at it as a bad deal. But when he was coming out of college, he was a hot commodity. And these coaches, they gotta, just like a player, they gotta cash in when they can cash in. And he did, and he still owed quite a bit of money, right? That's how guaranteed money works. Right? It didn't work out. He was terminated and he still owed how much?
$40 million.
$40 million, and so that's
$40
on the
million.
Books. That has to be paid. I think the hope is that he's going to be a hot commodity as he goes back to the college ranks, because he was a very successful college coach. So I think the hope is he gets paid a couple of million a year, and that'll eat away into the money he's owed by the Panthers. But still, it's a very expensive mistake for Mr. Tepper there.
Yeah, and he's got money, man. He's like extraordinarily rich. So he's got money. But at the same time, $834,000 a month is what that's what Rhule is owed currently. And like you said, if he does get hired, and presumably he will get hired, like you said, even though, I mean, it's his run in the NFL with the Panthers has been pretty abysmal, and it just has kind of looked, it's been bad.
Now, do we know what happens if he gets hired? Say if he goes back to college, does he still get? He gets a dollar for dollar credit against that buyout, but there's going to be money over and above what he's owed that he's still going to pay. He's getting every bit of that $40 million. Amazing. $834,000 a month for the next 48 months is the buyout.
That's got to be a good feeling, That's got to be you can completely blow it at your job. And again, there's several factors that go into that. We can't just put that all on his shoulders, but it's kind of, the buck stops somewhere, and it's the head coach is a great place to stop that buck, right? And you can do so poorly that you get terminated, and you're still getting that $40 million. Like, I can only imagine that's a pretty good, comfortable feeling for him.
Yeah, these guys, the guys that do this, coach like this. I mean, this is a full-time job and then some. NFL coach. I'm sure you're working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. It's like being a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right? You're working nonstop. You're not putting your 40 hours in and heading home and playing with the kids. You're working all the time, and that's why they get compensated like this. But yeah, this one was real weird, and it seemed like all the players, like, he had his locker room. It seemed like all the players liked him, and man, they just couldn't put it together. But guys like this, I think he'll be employed maybe this year, definitely by next year. I think he'll be employed. He'll be somewhere else working all the time. Like, it's hard, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they were like, well, he can just take it easy for a couple of years, right? He's got this coming in.
Sure. It makes perfect sense why he would take it easy. I
don't think guys look at it. I don't think these type of coaches look at it that way. They're going to get back into it. But yeah, man, talking about negotiating a good deal. Everything that's kind of one of the things we do here at the Outlaw Lawyer. We just kind of look at how the law plays into everything. And, negotiation is a big part of law school. I took a class that was just negotiation strategies. And, of course, for our clients, a lot of times we're working to settle civil matters or, personal injury. We're working with insurance companies. So a lot of the law is just understanding your leverage, understanding your position. And then there's these negotiation strategies that have been out there for centuries that people will use. But he knew what he was worth coming out of the college, and he was a hot property, and he struck the best deal he could strike. And, it's hard to be mad at him now. He came in, I mean, arguably he did the best he could. He wasn't, not working. And, now he gets the benefit of his bargain, and that's just how it works.
I'm guessing David Tepper wasn't in that negotiations class with you.
No. If he would have been, I'm trying to remember who taught that at good old the Norman Adrian Wiggins School of Law at Campbell University.
Fine institution.
Well,
and whereas you can look at it from the rule side of things and be like, man, that's a fantastic deal. You're $62 million guaranteed as a coach with no NFL experience coming straight out of college.
Sure.
Fantastic for him. But then you look on the other side of the coin, and especially now, and it you kind of scratch your head.
Well, I think I was just going to jump in
from the Panthers side.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say, you guys kind of mentioned that, he was a hot property and there were other people very interested. So his agent sits down and he's got the bargaining chips in front of him. He knows he's got other interests. And so he can hammer out that contract pretty much the way he wants it if said team in front of him is that eager to sign him. So, it's on the Panthers, and, congratulate, Matt Rhule's agent. I mean, that guy really earned his money, and now Matt Rhule's going to get paid. But the other part of this too is, and you guys know this, it's all about team. I mean, who do you have in your coaching staff? I mean, how are you delegating authority? I mean, a head coaching position is a hood ornament. I mean, there are some coaches that can, call plays defensively or offensively and kind of oversee things. But for the most part, you need two OCs that know their stuff and then let them fill out their staffs. And then you look like an absolute genius. But if you can't delegate, it's going to come back and hit you hard. And it happened here.
And, but
again, very, it's hard to say misfortune. Like, you don't want to take any joy in Matt Rhule's misfortune, but this isn't really misfortune. The guy's getting paid $40 million, whether he does anything else again or not. But made me really sad, man. I feel like I'm entitled to some of that money as a fan. Maybe all of us. We could split some of it. Well, for the hardship that we've endured.
I was going to say, and they say in the NFL that you're just, you're one or two players away from. I mean, these guys are all very, very talented.
Yeah,
on every single
talented
team
roster. That's not the problem, really.
Yeah, so they're not that far away, but it just feels like they are. So
yeah, I got a bold prediction. I think they got 2 tough weeks, but I think they pull out one of these next 2 games. I think the team rallies around the.
Yeah, I like Steve Wilkes. That's the interim head coach, and he's saying a lot of the right things. He was around during the good times for the Panthers, and when that culture was established, and winning a lot of games. And he's saying a lot of the right things. He's honestly, man, that's the other thing about Matt Rhule. If you paid attention, I never really thought he did a fantastic job handling the media. A lot of times he kind of, especially towards the end, just kind of seemed confounded. But Wilkes seems like the type of guy who, if nothing else, he's going to be able to get the team rallied for at least a short period of time. You usually see that bounce back period after a firing. A lot of times there's that next game when there's a lot of like the team's inspired and then it kind of tails off. So I don't know, man. Do you want them to succeed to some degree, or do you want them to just tank for the future? That's the real question.
Always succeed, man. Always.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Well, one of the folks that people are speculating will be in play is Sean Payton. So the New Orleans Saints coach who won a Super Bowl and was really competitive. He's one of the names that have been mentioned with the job, but back to our legal contractual discussion, he still has contractual obligations to the Saints.
Yeah, that's going to be, anybody that goes after him is going to have to compensate New Orleans. And, that's up to the team that goes after him. And he's pretty much got his pick. I mean, he's probably numero uno for teams out there looking for a guy that can kind of run the show and bring in his staff and probably
an experienced guy.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things Tepper said is he wants experience.
Yeah. Super Bowl. I mean, they want somebody that's been there, done that, and had success. And he's definitely got that on his resume. So his contract and his agent, they're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, I'll add this. I know we're coming up against a break, Morgan, but I'll add this in. If you ever get really, really bored, read NFL coaching contracts. Very
is it like
very exciting
melatonin
stuff.
when you need to sleep?
Yeah, very exciting stuff.
Okay, well, when we come back, are we going to go concussion? Is that what we're going to talk about?
I think so.
Okay, we're going to stay with the National Football League. And again, the headlines, just, protecting the quarterback, Tua down in Miami, obviously dealing with some serious issues. The Players Association is very upset at the league and vice versa. I mean, it's just nasty. And we'll talk about that coming up next on the Outlaw Lawyers. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer are your hosts. You can find them at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're the managing partners there, and they're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices conveniently located in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and now in Morehead City. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you've got questions you need answers to, you can always call the firm, Whitaker and Hamer, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186, and leave your contact information, briefly what the question's about, and they will have an answer for you and give you a call back. Again, questions at theoutlawlawyer.com. You can send those to us, and we'll answer them on a future program. We're back with more of The Outlaw Lawyer right after this.